Okay, so today we have a race at Fuji International Speedway in F4 cars. I wasn't originally planning on making a video of this one, but it turned out to be a really good race with some decent action pretty much throughout. So here we are, and that's why there's not any video of me giving inputs. This race is in the dry and the track is a little bit warmer. I haven't done any races in the damp yet, but the weather's been varying in practice, and I've noticed on when it's cloudy and the track is colder that I'm actually running like mid 142s. But in this, I've been running my target lap time is a low 143. And we are off. I'm starting from 10th on the grid, and coming into turn one. Try and not do anything crazy and just stay alive. I maybe could have made a move on 13 there, but at the same time, my goal at starts these days is just stay alive. So I have lost one position at this point. This turn, I definitely could have come in a little bit faster, but that is one that I'm a little bit wary on with cold tires. And we've got a car going off, taking somebody else out, so I have to avoid that to this turn, which having car 13 there on my left was not ideal because the banking on that corner is a little bit funky. Where if you hit the apex well, it's got good banking, but as soon as you're off of it, it's almost counter banking and easy to lose traction. These are a fun little This little chicane is super fun. I've actually hated Fuji in console games like Gran Turismo, and always struggled on that corner. There was a little bit of an incident I had to avoid. Corner number 10 there and go off track. But 1 point incident, and I'm alive, so not the end of the world. At this point, I am right where I started and 10th on the grid. But anyhow, so Fuji is a track that I've generally not liked with controllers, and specifically because of those chicanes. I think those are the Dunlop corner or something. And I found those really hard with controllers, but with the proper wheel giving feedback and pedals, it is so much more fun. And I'm losing a position in turn one. Car number two uh, got got behind me, got the slipstream, and got on my inside. That is a corner and a move that I still have yet to figure out how to properly defend, other than to come out onto the opening straight with enough room between me and the car behind so they can't get in my slipstream. So some learning to do there. It's kind of a fun corner where it's almost flat out. I locked up a little bit of a tire there and still wasn't as close to the apex on that corner as I'd like to be. We're still in the hunt. And my braking marker here normally is right before the 50-meter mark or 50-meter board. But with car number two ahead of me, I was braking a little bit earlier because I'm not sure where their braking marker is. And some folks brake a lot earlier there. This is another corner where I feel like I probably have more time to gain. I'm not really happy with how I'm coming through it in general, but it's been getting better. That's an area where I've also started throwing the brake balance more towards the front before, so that, well, with the brake balance in the rear, the car is very happy to throw its rear end in front. So at this point, I'm debating making a move on car number two, but I pulled out of the slipstream too early, and I'm not going to be on their inside, so hold the position. See, and that last lap was a 145.3. Again, I want to be in the 143s, but with traffic, that can be hard. And that's another turn where I'm braking just a little bit too early. Sometimes I've tried doing it with no brake and just letting off the throttle, which I think is the right way. but it tends to be risky for me. And that pass through that turn, that's pretty much how I want to hit that, where just clipping the curb and able to power through. So at this point, I'm also studying car number two a little bit to figure out where they're fast and where I'm fast comparatively. And have an answer there with as quickly as I closed up on them. They had plenty of gap between them and the other cars, so they are braking early. And that's another corner where I think I've got a little bit on them, but that's not a passing corner for me. So at this point, theoretically, I should be close enough to get a slipstream. Let's see what happens. Okay, that lap was a 144.3, but I am being held up a little. Again, didn't have enough to get on their inside. Another lap they were following. But at this point, I am starting to get a little bit eager to get around them because I know I've got at least a half second faster per lap than what I'm able to run behind them. A little bit too deep in that time, bouncing off the curb. And getting a decent run on them. And this might be a little bit of a hard move where I'm just totally blocking the number two. And I did lose the position to 14, but two is now behind me. So I basically traded. I'm reasonably happy with because 14 was keeping up with us. So I'm hoping that maybe we can catch some of the cars ahead. One thing that I'm noticing now is I don't normally see different overlays than I run with while I'm actually running. I use a relatives overlay in the upper left to tell me driver rankings because if I'm like close to somebody who's like a D license and like 1.5 um, safety rating, I'm going to know that they're probably somebody to be wary of and give wide berth. Uh, this relatives bar that I have, or thing that I have up, I noticed at the start of the race, before the video was recording, that it actually gave a preview of folks' average lap times and whatnot on tracks, which is kind of useful information. And 14 just gave me 8th position there, so I will take that. Um, and my rearview mirrors aren't showing, but the or the rear chases, and I'm starting to build a little bit of a gap on two. Somebody who was in the lead pack went off. It's car, I think, 13. So they've got a bit more pace, or at least they qualified reasonably well. We've got more folks running off, free positions, yay, I like it. And now that I've gotten better at surviving race starts, I've definitely been starting to work more on racecraft and actually passing people. Um, and turn number one is an excellent passing opportunity. I've got a decent drive on car 13, so I'm going to come in on the inside and take sixth position. As you can see, this is a corner. That corner is one where I'm losing time because car 13 closed right back up on me. So I've got some work to do in practice sessions there. Now he's on my inside, which means I'm on the side of the track that I do not like, that is slightly off camber. So I'm going to have to be a little gentle. He's still on my left, in the rear. I'm through the braking mark that I want here. I brake a little bit late. Um, these corners were also one where I realized I wasn't turning the wheel far enough. You really can kind of muscle this car around at lower speeds. And this is the point where my defense would be far enough away that they can't be in my slipstream. Has failed, and I am guessing they are going to be making a move. That last lap was also a 144.2, so I'm still not in the 143s. One thing that I've noticed that is really interesting is how much of a difference the track temperature makes. Um, and there's no visual indicator of it, but with the good direct drive wheelbase, you can actually feel that grip. Well, the combination of the wheelbase and the butt kickers gives some decent feedback, which was a really pleasantly surprising thing for me getting into sim racing. It's honestly not far off how it feels, at least driving Z on track days. Right, there's no G forces, but the feedback from the wheel and the vibrations. Your chief just told me the track temperature's rising. So we are on lap 7. These are 20-minute races, but that's been translating to 12 laps. There, I kind of botched it. Slid a little bit and lost drive coming out, so I'm not going to be close enough to do anything to car 13 this lap. 144.2, still not where I want to be, but consistent at least. They split a little bit, but it wasn't enough for me to capitalize on. I'm kind of slow on this corner. 50-meter board again. Touch that curve and power through. And I think both me and 13's eyes are starting to light up with, I think that's car 17 ahead that we've been closing on. Although I did lost a lot of ground to that last corner. And I also I really botched that turn. I dropped all the way down into second instead of staying in third, well, from fourth to third. So I've got some catching up to do. And I guess it's another thing that's noteworthy in these replays. I'm leaving the halo on, however, I do turn off that obstruction when I am driving. I have tried driving with it on, and it's actually not too bad, but since I'm not in VR and I'm not really able to look around it, it's kind of annoying to have, so I make it kind of go away and be transparent in races. Actually, that last lap at a 144.08 wasn't terrible, even though I had botched the final corner. That's also one where you can lose a lot of time since if you don't get good drive out with the long straight. So the final corner is definitely a maximize exit speed corner. Oops. A little bit late braking there and locked up a tire or two. Still too safe. Air hot into the, well, not the last turn, but the turn before where I had to control the slide a little. And 17 has just made a mistake, which is a bit of a gift for both 13 and myself. And there I was braking very late because I did see 17 moving out as if they were going to make a move on the inside, but they weren't close enough. Um, Despite locking up a tire, came out of it okay. So we now have, we're on lap number 10. Just a couple more laps to go, and I'm finally down in the 143s. Still high 143s, but better. I do think 13 did generally have better pace than me, with the exception of one of those twisties where I generally gain, I'd say, a tenth or two on them. So that last lap was 143.488. That is where I want to be. There's obviously more since I was not the cleanest through there and made some mistakes. But even in these conditions, I should be capable of a low 143 or 140 high 142. Went ever so slightly to get the nose in. 19. Not sure what crew chief is battling on there. So now my eyes are starting to light up a little bit. I am closing on 13. We are approaching the penultimate lap. So I could maybe even get a fifth out of this. the slipstream and got some speed on them. And that last lap was 143 flat. Side, and I've gotten past. Happy with that. But now we're coming up to one of my frenemy corners. And 13 got way better drive and ended up on the inside. So it's just a brief game. He's taking a very defensive line. He's also allowed 17 to close up on my rear. I am now in a sandwich on the last lap. And I think 13 knows that I'm usually fast here. They're taking the defensive line. Let's see if I can get around them. No such luck. At this point, it is looking like sixth is probably where I'm going to finish. Someone gives us a gift, and it looks like they have. There's a car that was in the lead pack that has wheel damage, is sparking. We're going to have to be a little bit cautious going around. But that'll give me a top 5 finish. 17's not close enough to get a nice slipstream to pass before the finish line. And we have a race. A lot of people just like immediately pull over and stop and get out of the car, which is a little silly because one, it creates a hazard for folks that don't, but also your corner count is still going, so parade lap is good for your I rating, and allows everybody to finish safely without any crazy accidents. Yeah, so there we have it. A race at Fuji. It was fun and close and almost instant free. The only instant was avoiding another car and going off track. So I will take it.